It is 5:30. I'm going to call this special city council meeting into order. Before we get to our agenda item, I have something to read. I'd like to read this to the public. We'll send this out, Stacy, also to the newspapers. Is that correct? The media in general. We'll put it on our website. On Patriot Day, we honor the memories. I should have read this beforehand. On Patriot Day, we honor the memories of nearly 3,000 lives we lost on September 11, 2001, and of every hero who has given their life since that day to protect our safety and our freedom. Today, we recall the timeless truth. When America is united, no force on earth can break us apart. Our values endure, our people thrive, our nation prevails, and the memory of our loved ones never fades. Although that fateful Tuesday 17 years ago began like any other, it erupted into horror and anguish when an unprecedented attack was carried out on our homeland in New York, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. The enemies of liberty took aim on America, but their lives could not crush our spirit, overcome our will, or loosen our commitment to freedom. Through the dust and ashes, we emerged resilient and united, bruised but not broken. On September 11, 2001, the world came to understand the true source of America's strength. Our love of country was made manifest through examples of Americans engaging in countless acts of courage, grit, and selflessness. Their actions gave us hope and helped us to sustain us in the days of healing that followed. We were moved by the heroism of passengers and crew aboard United Flight 93, who sacrificed their lives to prevent further acts of terror. We were inspired by police and first responders as they rushed headlong into burning buildings to rescue the injured and trapped, and as they courageously braved fire, smoke, debris, descending deep into piles of rubble, ash, and twisted iron to search for survivors. We are stirred to service by the deeds of those who labored in the ensuing days and months, often in dangerous conditions, to help our nation rebuild and recover. The noble sacrifices of these true patriots are forged into the great history of America. Today, we honor the memories of the souls we lost on September 11, 2001, and yet we also pay tribute to all the patriots who sacrificed their lives in defense of our freedom. That was a proclamation by the White House several years ago, and so I wanted to read that today. It is Patriots Day. I encourage everybody to find a patriot in this community and say thanks. Give them a pat on the back. We have one. Paula, stand up. I was told I'd get in trouble for calling you out, but you're the only one officer here tonight, so I'm gonna single you out. So thank you for your service to Stephenville. All right, with that done, I'll turn to the agenda items. The first one is consider approval of the hotel tax fund application for the Charlton Texan Club. This was going to be on our agenda last week, or I guess a week ago, and we had an issue with how we posted it. So Julie, would you make a presentation? And then I'll let Carla make a recommendation.
Okay.
Mon recently with the Charlton Texan Club made an application for a $3,000 sponsorship. He had received funding in the past from the chamber and had asked for funding to continue through the Stephenville Tourism and Visitors Bureau.
And this was inadvertently left off at the last meeting. The committee did recommend that this $3,000 be continued for this for TSU athletics. It's not just for one event; it's support of all their events.
All sporting events throughout the year.
Okay. Would you like to make that in a motion? Then I'll ask for questions and comments afterwards.
Okay, I move that we approve the $3,000 hot application for TSU athletics.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, I think Rick got it out first. Okay, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question. Julie, on this application, whenever it asks for some specific information, there's several answers that say too many to calculate. And I just think that it would be a good idea that before they apply, this seems to be an ongoing request, and I respect that. But I do think that they need to try to make an effort to nail some hard data down so that we can monitor that to some degree.
Absolutely.
You'll work with him to do that.
Absolutely.
Any other comments, questions? I see Mark looks like he wants to say something. Okay. Hearing no other comments, I'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion passes. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Consider approval of resolution 2018 R14 for application for the 2016 Community Development Block Grant Disaster Relief Recovery Program. Which staff's gonna make the presentation? Is that Nick? And I guess that'll come back to, Mark, is that your committee or is it? Alan's committee. I'll bring it back to you for a motion.
This resolution is just simply an authorization to submit the application for the 2016 CDBG project. It's what you've already voted on. Matter of fact, last council meeting, you approved the contract with KSA and Public Management. And what this is the $2 million grant application for the guaranteed 1% match. All this is the authorization to submit the application.
Okay. You wanna make a motion?
Mayor, I make the motion that we authorize staff to submit the application for the CDBG grant. That would be, well, I lost it, 2018 R14.
Second.
A motion is second to approve the applications presented. Any discussion, questions?
I think it's just important to point out here, this is a possibility of a $2 million grant with a 1% match by the city of Stephenville.
$20,000.
$20,000 to $2 million. As many of these as you can go after, sir.
Yes, sir.
And what are our odds? Do we have very good odds on that?
You know, I don't want to put a number on it, but Public Management and KSA, they wouldn't have signed contracts if they didn't think that we had a chance of getting this.
And we have another issue tonight that may help with this project. We'll talk about later.
We've been very fortunate to get quite a few CDBG grants, especially for a community our size, and so it's part of our due
That
diligence.
would be awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions, comments? Have a motion and second on the floor. Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion passes. You have approval. Thank you very much, Nick. Go get some more money too. Okay, next item is item 4. Consider approval of a contract with Todd Smith for governmental affairs consulting services. I'm gonna turn that over to Alan. And once Alan's made his presentation, then I'll proceed to entertain a motion to approve the contract. Mark, since you were on the call, would you? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you have in front of you a memorandum of understanding between the city of Stephenville and Impact Texas Communications. We've been referring to this as a contract with Todd Smith. This is actually the name of his company. Mr. Smith is a governmental affairs consultant with many public and private sector clients, Bristol Myers Squibb, Ameriquest Mortgage, National Mounted Warfare Foundation, found that interesting, and the city of Granbury. And that's just a few of the folks that they've represented. What this contract is for, we've discussed several iterations of this contract or this agreement. What we are proposing is a 12-month agreement that will have a total payout of $39,000. It's $3,500 a month from September to the end of May, I believe it is, which is an 8-month period. Those 8 months will cost us $3,500 a piece. Mr. Smith has lowered his rate by $1,000 the final 3 months of the contract. So this is basically a $42,000 contract that we can get for $39,000. Mr. Smith, I talked to him a couple of times today. He is excited and ready to begin work for us. The first one that I suggest that we will contact him on is a particular CDBG grant offered by the GLO, and we'll have that discussion tomorrow, subject to your approval of this.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we authorize the city administrator to execute this contract with Impact Texas Communications as it's been presented.
Okay, have a motion, have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Carlos seconds the motion. Any discussion, comments? I appreciate you negotiating a rate, better rate, Alan. Okay, hearing no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed, motion passes. Thank you, Alan. We're gonna go into the last two items, which deals with CETAs. Jeff, we're gonna ask Jeff to come up. We have two different items, and we're gonna let him make the presentation. And it doesn't, well, let's just go ahead and make the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first one is on the Facade Infrastructure Improvement Program. This is a program that, as you guys know, has been going on for some time. I believe we've completed 7 facade improvement grants over the course of time and have several more in the loop moving forward. Moving into our next fiscal year, listening to you guys, as y'all know, I've been on a listening tour with each and every one of you folks up here, and wanted to kind of see what the problems or the issues or the potential or any other opportunities might be for us. And specifically, there were 2 that kind of rose to the top, 2 issues. Those are in your packet. I believe it's page 2 of the program document, but it's, I believe, page 12 of yours. I'm not sure how you have it there. In any case, the 2 areas that we tried to address, one is on eligible areas. We expanded that from just inside the city limits as it was before. We wanted to make sure that it was applied to a significant or specific designated area. It reads, beginning October 1st, 2018, grants under this program will be applied to a specific designated area. The designation will be open for a term of 1 year and will follow the timing of CETA's fiscal year. 30 days prior to the conclusion of the fiscal year, the designated area will be reviewed and other areas will be considered. We believe that this will have a bigger impact on the community because even, if you put 7 in one area, all of a sudden it looks like an area is being taken care of in a little bit broader sense. And the other thing it does by doing the 1 year term, number one, it doesn't exclude that from being extended another year, but it does also get people to want to perhaps go a little bit faster in their improvement program and come to us. So we do know that we know if they're not in that area, it's an easy no. If they are in that area, certainly then it's something that we can consider and vet out.
Will you go out and solicit businesses to participate?
I believe if the timing allows, yes. It is certainly, I will tell you this much. We will do the marketing of such to make sure that that area is well aware of it. How it's solicited, I'm not sure.
Okay.
We've got to be a little careful in drawing the line as telling someone that they need something versus and that they need to spend the money. But I do think that we will
But
market
they
to an
will
area.
all fully know.
We
this
will
is about-
market to that designated
Okay.
area, yes, ma'am. The second area is ineligible applicants. One of the things that we did and heard was to make sure that we were addressing who was eligible, or more specifically, who was not. The amendment reads, the following are excluded from eligibility for the facade program: actively serving Stephenville Economic Development Authority board members and staff, along with any person related to the foregoing within the second degree of affinity and or consanguinity, and actively serving Stephenville City Council members and city staff, along with any person related to the foregoing within the second degree of affinity and or consanguinity. Basically, it's saying you guys and we are not allowed to do this, and it protects all of us. While we are in office, obviously, or you guys, I guess I'm not an officer, but it protects everybody. It doesn't exclude them once y'all or board is off. It protects them while we're serving in this capacity.
Okay, I'm gonna ask that, technically, we don't have to vote on this, but I'm gonna ask the council to do so. So, do I hear a recommendation to approve or accept this modification?
Mayor, I'd move that we approve the amended facade program as presented to us tonight.
Okay, we have a motion, and who seconded it? Mark seconded it. Any discussion? I'm gonna encourage you to reach out to certain council members, like particularly Carla, because she's on the, tourism board, and I don't know, maybe talk to Alan and maybe get her to give you some other recommendation who you reach out to, maybe give you some feedback on that.
Absolutely.
As a committee, so.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed, unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Item number 6, Stephenville, CETA budget.
As you know, we've been working on our budget for quite some time. We turned it into the council for consideration at the end of June. We've met several times in joint session. We've met several times individually. We've met several times as a CETA board. You guys have met on it as well as a council. So I'm presenting this for public consumption to you guys for consideration. We've broken it down much like it was previously in terms of how it was written up. I didn't really change the format so much. One of the things we did do in addressing the budget was to make sure that if there were not expenditures, and we zeroed that out, obviously, because some things based on a move to where we are at the airport no longer require expense. Some other things that we've noticed over time were either incorrectly marked perhaps, or in a situation that did not make sense from a budgetary standpoint. As we've also said in previous meetings, as each year goes by, and I think you guys would agree with this, the budget gets tighter. It gets a little bit more accurate. As we know, with a full office and a full staff doing the job of a full-time economic development organization, that certain things will go up or down over time, and this is our chance to really take a look at it and see how that affects us. We broke them down into the first category is personnel. You see in front of you the amounts that are there based on what we believe are the salary. Well, one is contracted, that would be me, obviously, and the other one is one that we're moving into a different position as assistant director and senior program manager position. The secondary area is the contractual. These are a lot of the different kinds of things. Again, this was listed like such and given to us by Monica or by staff. We have taken those, looked at how we spent over the last year, and you don't see an awful lot of change over that. There are a couple of areas where we went to zero, such as utilities, janitorial service, and a couple of other areas. The marketing piece, while we don't have any intention of doing less in the marketing realm, we do believe that the expenditure can be less based on how we do it, and that's just smart usage of money and smart usage of our people. A lot of marketing is done one-on-one and with the personnel. The third area is on general services. These are some of the things that, again, there was not any change other than a couple of dollars just to balance out office supplies, photo duplication, those kinds of things that you see in front of you. The fourth area is office machine and equipment maintenance, and that really is, as we've told you before in work sessions, primarily related to our copying machine and the efficiency that provides to us having it in office. The next area is in ED projects. This has one major change. We did decrease slightly the actual restricted amount for ED projects, knowing that in the CETA board eyes, the ED projects with a growing fund balance, we know that we could access those if there becomes a need above what we have already budgeted. And as that number continues to grow, we didn't want to pull any more out of it because we need that number to grow to be competitive with other communities. And so we lowered that slightly. However, one of the things that has been a topic of consideration for all of us is participation in the East Side Sewer Project. We understand how important this is to the council. We've been talking about it since long before I was involved with this organization, from amounts all the way from $26,000 has been offered to us all the way up to a couple of $100,000. The board has offered to do a 3-year commitment of $75,000 per year. And so that is added in there, and that's going to be pulled from reserves. Other than that, and the reason I point that out from reserves is because we did submit, as you know, a balanced budget for your consideration, but wanted to pull this out of reserve so as not to affect the other line items. The next area is in administrative services. This is actually a contracted amount, I believe, that's a percentage of revenue. That number ultimately will go up and down, but as it goes up and down, it won't really throw the budget out of whack, because if it goes up, that means revenue also goes up. So it's in a percentage, it's correlated with the percentage of revenue. And finally, that is it. So that brings in a $583,315 budget.
I appreciate that, Jeff. Let me just make a comment here. I appreciate the hard work that the board has done, the staff have done. I appreciate the hard work and the input that the city council has done. It's new to everybody. There have been some successes. I anticipate lots of successes as we go forward, and I appreciate everybody's effort. And it's a work in progress. So I know there's been some consternation about the budget itself, and so I've asked. I appreciate Mr. Nick's involvement in the process. So I think he has a comment or a recommendation.
Mayor, I have a motion, if I might offer it. I would move that we approve the CETA budget as proposed with 2 possible suggested changes in that. I don't think we have the authority to change it, but I think we can suggest to them that they make these modifications.
Okay.
And these are changes that would be subject to board approval. And my motion needs to state that these changes are subject to their board approval.
Okay.
The first category would be in personnel. The personnel, the salary for the assistant director would be approved at $60,000, but we'd be subject to coming back with the city's salary survey that would support that. In the meantime, it would be paid at $53,000, with the remainder of that money between the 53 and the 60 being held in an account. Should the salary survey come back and support the 60, that assistant director's position would receive that money at that time, and benefits will be paid and deducted at the 53,000 until that time at which it comes back to support the 60 if it does. The other item would be in the projects category, the Eastside Sewer participation. I think one of the board's misgivings about that participation in that is because of their obligation to backstop the light on East Washington. Well, I would suggest that we approve the 75,000 now, subject to it going up to 137,500 at the time that backstop has been removed from their obligations. And that way, that frees up that money to make the difference between the 75 and the 137,500. And with those two proposed changes, I would make the motion that we approve their budget subject to their board's approval.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Well, I have a question. We have to get a second first.
I'll second this one.
Okay, we have a second. All right, discussion.
I don't quite understand the salary. Are we going to, you're holding that money in account, and then if the salary survey comes back at 60,000, you'll go back and pay that money
Make up the difference between the 53 and the 60, yes, ma'am.
forward, or you'll go back and make
Go
it
back.
retroactive?
It will be for the entire year.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
and that way her salary is set at 60, but we'll be paying at the rate of 53 until we get that salary survey back.
Okay, and I had one more question. Let me see if I can pull it up on my computer. Okay, a question I neglected to ask the other night was about group insurance. Why that, because I have two different amounts here. I have a 15,880 and an 18,000, and last year it was 10,470. Why is there such a large increase in
Well,
group
you
insurance?
can't, as we've said many times, you can't compare last year because we didn't have full staff. This is on 2 full staff members for the entire year, plus allows a little bit just in case the numbers, we don't know what the increase is going to be come.
Okay,
next
and I
week.
had another question about that insurance. I know that CETA has formed a committee to work on a personnel handbook, but until council approves that, will CETA be following the city guidelines as to no cash payments in lieu of taking medical insurance? Because the city doesn't allow cash payments in lieu of medical
I know
insurance.
nothing about that, and that's never come up as discussion.
Okay, well,
Yes, sir.
So, Alan, just tell me how you came to the 137 if the backstop is removed.
Well, we threw several numbers back and forth. 75 seemed to be the beginning place, all the way up to 200,000 was a number that was suggested at our joint workshop. It was a compromise between those two. If you split the difference, so to speak, it's a compromise that is between them and will increase their participation in that project.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so their total contribution would be 137,500. Is that correct, based on?
After they're relieved.
After the stoplight?
Yes, after the stoplight, after their backstop for that stoplight has been resolved and they are no longer under that obligation, then their contribution would be at the 137,500 annually.
So that does require that, because y'all had proposed a 3-year commitment at 75, so you're suggesting
A 1 year, just for this budget.
only for this budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
so we wouldn't even have the 75 next year or the next year? We have no multi-year commitment?
It'd be my opinion that we need to have their board, I'm gonna propose that their board and we sit down sometime early spring and talk about next year's budget and get this process much more advanced than what we were this year, which I think caused some of the consternation.
If it's any value, just as they could go back and review it in time, I mean, we do the same thing, Carla, so.
Okay.
Sherry?
I just, can I amend the second, or make a motion to amend the amendment that he made?
You make a motion to amend it if you want.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I think I said second. I meant motion.
Yes,
Pardon.
second.
Well, I would like to make a motion to amend your 200, what was it, 137,000, and raise that to $200,000 based on the fact that CETA has $700,000 plus in reserves. And that is,
Okay, Carl has made
I didn't make any motion.
I mean, Carl, I looked at you and said, Sherry.
we both have.
Sherry
great
has made a
visuals.
motion to amend the motion on the floor. This has a second. Do I hear a second to the motion? Hearing no second, the motion fails, and so we'll proceed to vote. Any other discussion before we vote? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. And I'll try to summarize the motion. What we're moving on is approving the budget with two changes. One is modifying the personnel, the wages side of it, to $53,000. They'll be able to start paying that on October 1st, the fiscal year. And we would hold into some reserve account. The difference between that and $60,000, depending on the survey, it probably comes back in March or April. At that point, then the decision will be made. And then on the, is that right, Alan?
That sounds right.
Okay, Randy, okay. Then the next part is that the $75,000 for East Side Sewer, we'll keep it at $75,000. And we're gonna ask the board to consider the $137,500 as a budget up to that amount as a budget amendment sometime in the spring, once we start looking at the backstop. You know, it may be next year, it could be whenever one of the backstop changes. Is that a summary of it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just
Yes,
one
ma'am.
quick question. What if the salary study isn't done?
Until we get salary study done, I think it's Alan's motion that we leave it as it is until the 53.
At the 53,
Until
subject to the outcome of the salary survey.
That's correct.
Okay.
Alan as to with Alan tonight, and he assured me that sometime early spring.
The request for proposals for the salary survey are currently on the street, and I apologize, I don't remember the date that they're due back. Excuse me. Normally, they take between 4 and 6 months to conduct. And so hopefully, we should be at the very latest, April, May, June timeline. At the absolute worst, and probably March, April, at the best possible.
And in that process, I've assured CETA staff that they'd have participation in that survey process, the questions and input to that.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Well, I don't understand. We're approving it at 75, and we're just hoping they go to 137, or is
We're
that-
asking them to go back and make an amendment to their budget that they would put that in an escrow account based on whenever that backstop is released. Any other questions? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed.
No.
Motion, okay, we have one motion to vote no. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate the board considering some of those recommendations, and I'm sure we'll hear back soon. Any other agenda items or anything else we need to discuss tonight?
No, sir.
Hearing none, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
You got a fast meeting out, Doug.
28 minutes.